We are currently in the town of Simbach, where a devastating flash flood has struck. Heavy rains that have been continuous since Saturday night have submerged the entire area in raging floodwaters. The rain continues relentlessly, heightening the sense of unease. Streets that were once clear are now transformed into rivers, with swirling waters that show no sign of stopping. Rescue teams are struggling to navigate through the sea of water, but the chaos is making their efforts extremely difficult. A feeling of anxiety blankets the town as residents brace themselves for what may come next. In the area near Augsburg, the situation has become even more critical. The Schmutter River has risen suddenly, causing widespread flooding. The rushing waters have swept away everything in their path, from cars to trees. People are hastily evacuating their homes, leaving their belongings behind. Shouts of panic blend with the howling wind and pounding rain, creating a scene of utter chaos. The entire area is engulfed in fear, as no one can predict what will happen if the rain does not stop. Northwest of Munich, large waves have struck the railway bridge, submerging part of it completely. Reports from the area indicate that the floodwaters have destroyed infrastructure, severing a vital transport route. Lightning flashes from collapsed power poles add to the tense atmosphere. Local police have immediately blocked all entrances to prevent further danger, but accessing the flooded areas remains extremely difficult. Residents can only wait for assistance from rescue teams. In the town of Jesser-Chosen, a few miles from the area where the fish die-off occurred, the flooding has covered the entire streets. The local residents are witnessing something they never imagined. Two ducks calmly swimming across the floodwaters, as if they were on a leisurely outing. But for them, this sight only heightens their anxiety, as it indicates that the flooding is becoming more severe. Families have started seeking higher ground, moving away from the danger of being swept away by the rising waters. The fields surrounding the area of fields have completely disappeared beneath a vast sea of water. Reports from the scene indicate that floodwaters have inundated every corner, paralyzing all traffic. Firefighters have had to block off the main roads to prevent people from getting trapped in the dangerous currents. The scene before us is one of utter devastation, with trees swept away and houses submerged in the water. The residents here have no choice but to wait in despair for assistance to arrive. In the northern areas of Bavaria, the rain continues to pour relentlessly. Many rivers have exceeded their safety limits and are spilling over onto the roads, submerging entire residential areas. The blaring sirens of fire trucks and police cars echo constantly, warning residents to evacuate the dangerous zones. However, heavy rain and strong winds are hindering rescue efforts, creating an atmosphere of anxiety and fear. Meanwhile, families are trying to protect their belongings, though they know it may be futile under the current circumstances. The southern region of Bain-Wort-Temper is unrecognizable, as heavy rains have completely transformed the area. Floodwaters from the rivers have poured into the city, submerging the streets and leaving many areas in total blackout. Buildings are engulfed by the rushing floodwaters, and residents have been forced to evacuate to temporary shelters. There is nothing that can stop the force of nature at this moment, and the people can only wait in a state of overwhelming fear. The German Meteorological Service has issued an emergency warning, predicting that more heavy rains will fall tonight. This is especially concerning for eastern states like Thuringia and northern Bavaria, which are expected to be the focus of the next storm. Residents in these areas are prepared to evacuate, but the heavy rains and flooding have already cut off many roads. Families still trapped in flooded regions are waiting for help, but their hopes are fading as the weather shows no signs of improvement. In rural areas, the floods have devastated entire crops and caused many homes to collapse. The wheat fields are now just waterlogged lands with no signs of life left. Tractors and trucks lie submerged underwater, while farmers can only stand by and watch as their property is swept away. Rescue teams are unable to reach these areas because the roads have been completely destroyed. The residents can only pray that the rain will stop soon, but it seems unlikely to happen anytime soon. In Simbach, the state of emergency continues as floodwaters keep rising. The roads have completely disappeared beneath the rushing water, making movement in the area impossible. Local police and firefighters are tirelessly working to evacuate residents, but time is against them. A heavier storm is approaching, and everyone fears the town will soon be entirely submerged. Houses have been abandoned, and people are scrambling to escape before the disaster fully engulfs them. In the suburban areas of Munich, the water levels continue to rise, and all efforts to control the situation seem futile. Many families are trapped on rooftops, waiting for help as the floodwaters keep rising. Infrastructure has been destroyed, drainage systems are overwhelmed, and there is no longer any ability to stop the spread of the flood. Tonight, meteorologists have warned that the situation will worsen, with more heavy rain expected to fall with greater intensity. A sense of fear is engulfing the entire area. Rescue teams are racing against time to save those trapped in the flooded areas. However, the danger of the swift currents has slowed down the rescue efforts. Rescue boats have been overturned by the violent waters, making the operation extremely difficult. The flashing lights of rescue vehicles shine faintly in the dark, but they are only fragile glimmers of hope in the vast expanse of water. The local residents can only pray for their survival and that of their families in this disaster. Neighboring areas are also suffering heavily, with hundreds of homes completely submerged underwater. Many residents have had to abandon their belongings and flee to shelters. However, even these shelters are no longer guaranteed to be safe, as the floodwaters continue to spread everywhere. Worry and fear are etched on everyone's faces, as they have no idea what will happen next. Local officials are trying to maintain order, but under these circumstances, everything seems beyond control. Heavy rain and strong winds have disrupted the entire transportation and power systems in the area. Many regions are experiencing complete power outages, making communication with authorities extremely difficult. In the thick darkness, only the sound of floodwaters and the wind howling through cracks in the doors can be heard. The surviving residents are relying on the scarce supplies of food and water they have left, as outside resources have been cut off. Tonight will be a long night for them, with no sign of the heavy rain letting up. Across southern Germany, thousands of residents are living in anxiety and fear, uncertain about what the future holds. With the weather forecast predicting continued heavy rains and thunderstorms, the situation is becoming increasingly severe. Experts warn that this condition could persist for several more days, and people need to mentally prepare for worsening developments. For many, this is not just an ordinary flash flood, but a real disaster, threatening their lives with every passing hour.